Hello everyone, myself Dr. Akshatha Nayak, Assistant Professor in Biochemistry, Manipal Academy of Higher Education. In this session, I will be covering the topic of B complex vitamins, specifically niacin, that is vitamin B3, pantothenic acid B5 and pyridoxine, that is B6. So, for these vitamins you will be studying the dietary sources, dietary requirement, the recommended dietary allowances for each of these vitamins, the biochemical function and the deficiency disorders related to these three vitamins. So, before we move on to these specific B complex vitamins, we will see what are these vitamins. Vitamins are chemically unrelated organic compounds which our body cannot synthesize in adequate quantities. That is why we have to consume them in the diet, or it has to be supplied through diet. So, broadly vitamins are classified into water soluble vitamins and fat soluble vitamins. Under water soluble vitamins, they are the vitamin C and B complex vitamins, and fat soluble vitamins are A, D, E and K. So, among this we will be covering the B complex vitamins, specifically B3, B5 and B6 in this session. So, as I mentioned, vitamin B3, which is known as niacin, it is also called as nicotinic acid, niacinamide and anti-pellagra vitamin. Why it is called anti-pellagra vitamin? The deficiency of this particular vitamin results in a condition called pellagra. We will be studying the details of it a little later. So, to prevent pellagra, sufficient quantity of vitamin B3 or niacin has to be supplied in the diet. So, this is called as anti-pellagra vitamin. So, these are the sources which contain adequate amount, or they are the rich sources of vitamin B3: liver, dried yeast, rice polishing, whole cereals, legumes, vegetables, milk, meat and fish are the rich sources of niacin. So, dietary allowance or recommended dietary allowance is 20 milligrams per day, and additional 15 milligram is required during lactation. And this niacin can be produced from tryptophan in the body. So, every 60 milligram of tryptophan can form or can produce equivalent to 1 milligram of niacin. So, that means adequate supply of tryptophan in our diet can help the body to produce niacin. In the form of coenzymes, these B complex vitamins are required for the activities of certain enzymes, and this niacin has two coenzyme form. One is the NAD plus and the other one is NADP. And what are these coenzyme forms? Coenzyme forms are the organic molecules which are required for the active participation of enzymes in the biochemical reaction. That means without these coenzyme form, an enzyme is inactive or it is inefficient to perform a biochemical reaction. So, these two are the coenzyme form of the vitamin B3, that is niacin. And the biochemical functions include, as these coenzyme forms either NAD or NAD plus, this niacin is required for the oxidation reduction reactions in the biochemical processes. So, we will see few of the reactions which require either NAD or NADP as coenzyme forms. So, NAD dependent enzymes include lactate dehydrogenase. You all know the reaction catalyzed by lactate dehydrogenase. It is required for the conversion of lactate into pyruvate. So, this is a irreversible reaction catalyzed by lactate dehydrogenase, lactate to pyruvate or pyruvate to lactate. But the conversion of lactate to pyruvate needs NAD plus. Next is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. This is one of the reaction that you study during glycolytic pathway. So, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. The next enzyme or the reaction where NAD is required is pyruvate dehydrogenase. This is an important link reaction between glycolysis and the TCA cycle, where pyruvate is converted into acetyl-CoA. So, pyruvate dehydrogenase requires NAD as coenzyme for its activity, efficient activity. The next enzyme, beta hydroxyacyl CoA dehydrogenase. If you can recall, this enzyme is a part of beta oxidation reaction where beta hydroxyacyl CoA is converted into beta ketoacyl CoA, which requires NAD as coenzyme. Similarly, alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, a enzyme of TCA cycle converting alpha ketoglutarate into succinyl CoA. And there are certain enzymes which require NADP as coenzymes. One of the important enzyme that requires NADP plus is the glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase of HMP shunt pathway, converting glucose 6-phosphate into 6-phosphogluconolactone. There are other two enzymes which depend on NADP for its activity. One is the malic enzyme converting the malic acid, malate into pyruvate, and cytosolic isocitrate dehydrogenase which converts isocitrate into 2-oxoglutarate. Before moving on to the deficiency disorder, there is one enzyme which can act in the presence of both NAD and NADP plus, that is glutamate dehydrogenase, converting glutamate into alpha ketoglutarate. The next concept that we will be studying under this vitamin is the deficiency symptom. Niacin deficiency result in a condition called pellagra. So, pellagra is characterized by 3D symptoms, or it is also known as 3D disease. What does this D refers to? 3D referring to, first D is dermatitis, which is the inflammation of the skin, diarrhea, inflammation of the GIT, dementia, as you know, it is loss of memory or unable to concentrate. And if these 3 Ds are not treated on time, or if pellagra is not treated on time, then it will lead to 4th D, that is death. Now, we will see the detailed symptoms or findings in these particular condition pellagra. So, dermatitis, as I mentioned, it is the inflammation of the skin or the dermis leading to roughening and exfoliation of the skin in the feet, ankle, face, and inflammation of the tongue, which is commonly referred as glossitis. There is also pigmentation or scaly rashes found on the skin which is more exposed to the sun. So, that will be observed as Casals necklace dermatitis. It is known as Casals dermatitis or Casals necklace dermatitis. I will show you the picture for that. Diarrhea is nothing but the inflammation of the GIT characterized by loose stools filled with blood and mucus. This is due to the inflammatory changes occurring in the GI mucosa. Because of the continuous diarrhea or loose stools, there will be weight loss. The next D referring to dementia, it is the poor memory or insomnia leading to anxiety, irritability or inability to concentrate, and these 3D symptoms, if they are not treated on time, leading to 4th D, which is the death. So, I will show you the pictures related to the dermatitis or pellagra symptoms. Classically, as I mentioned, the Casals necklace, you can see the rashes or the inflammation of the skin around the neck region which is more exposed to the sunlight. Even this is a Casals necklace. This is the sun exposed regions getting inflammation. This is the glossitis. Okay. So, you can see the Casals necklace finding in the pellagra, and the glossitis, the inflammation of the tongue, is known as the glossitis. So, this is a peculiar finding seen in case of pellagra. Niacin deficiency can occur due to certain reasons or certain causes. First is the dietary deficiency of tryptophan. This is more common in people who consume maize as their staple diet, commonly seen in South and Central America where maize is the staple diet of the people. In maize, niacin is present in the unbound form which is unavailable for the function. So, the niacin deficiency is very common in those people or the people related to these areas. Next cause is due to deficient synthesis. Synthesis of the nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, that is NAD, from tryptophan requires the coenzyme form of another vitamin that is called as the pyridoxine, that is the PLP. The coenzyme form of B6 is the PLP, and PLP is required for the production of NAD from tryptophan. Therefore, the deficiency of PLP results in the niacin deficiency and leading to the pellagra. So, PLP deficiency can result in pellagra. So, again the similar symptoms we will be, or same thing will be repeating under B6. So, please do remember the niacin deficiency and the PLP deficiency both will result in the common findings, that are the pellagra like symptoms. Treatment with isoniazid. Isoniazid is a anti-tuberculosis drug which inhibits the PLP, and I have already told you that the PLP is a coenzyme of B6 which is required for the synthesis of NAD from tryptophan. So, if the PLP is inhibited due to this drug, that means the production of NAD from tryptophan is also inhibited. So, the people who take anti-tuberculosis drug as a treatment for TB will have the deficiency of PLP and they will have the symptoms of pellagra. Next is Hartnup disease. Hartnup disease is characterized by there is defect in the absorption of tryptophan in the intestine. So, tryptophan is excreted in the urine and tryptophan is unavailable for the production of NAD. So, NAD deficiency leading to pellagra. And carcinoid syndrome. What is this carcinoid syndrome? Carcinoid syndrome is a tumor of GI tract. The argentophenoma cells of the GI tract, they produce tumors. They are serotonin overproducing tumors which consume more and more tryptophan for the production of the serotonin. Okay. So, because of this, tryptophan is unavailable for the production of NAD. So, NAD deficiency leading to ultimately pellagra. So, these are the reasons or the causes for niacin deficiency. Next vitamin that we will be looking into is the pantothenic acid. Pantothenic acid is richly found in egg, liver, meat, yeast and milk, and the dietary allowance or the requirement per day is 5 to 12 mg. And coenzyme form of this particular vitamin is coenzyme A. So, coenzyme A is required for the following functions. It is commonly referred to as CoA. This serves as a carrier molecule for the activated acetyl or acyl groups. It has a major role in most of the metabolism, for example, the carbohydrate, lipid and protein metabolism. In the form of acetyl CoA, it is involved in the formation of the fatty acids, cholesterol, ketone bodies, and it is a major intermediate of the TCA cycle. So, as acyl CoA, it is involved in the fatty acid oxidation, production of triacyl glycerol and phospholipid synthesis. Succinyl CoA is the intermediate of the TCA cycle required for the production of heme, and it is an intermediate formed during the ketolysis. So, all this, if you see carefully, they all have coenzyme A attached to these molecules. So, it is required for the major metabolism in our body. So, pantothenic acid also is a part of the multi-enzyme complex which is called as the fatty acid synthase complex required for the production of fatty acid in the body. So, few examples where the coenzyme A is required. Pyruvate to acetyl CoA conversion by the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex, which I mentioned in the beginning of the session. So, PDH complex converts pyruvate and allows the acetyl CoA enter into TCA cycle. So, this requires the coenzyme A or the pantothenic acid. Another example is the reaction of the TCA cycle where alpha ketoglutarate is converted into succinyl CoA by alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, and fatty acid synthase or fatty acid converted into acyl molecule, acyl CoA activated fatty acid. through which it can be converted into triacylglycerol and further the cholesterol synthesis. So, thiokinase is the one which requires coenzyme A or the active form, the coenzyme form of pantothenic acid. So, deficiencies of pantothenic acid are very rare, but if seen, it will be observed as burning feet syndrome, where there will be pain and numbness in the toes, sleeplessness and the fatigue. So, if you see this, the burning feet syndrome is not only because of the deficiency of the pantothenic acid, it is observed as a collective deficiency of other vitamins like riboflavin, B12, pantothenic acid and iron deficiency also. So, it is a collective symptoms of various vitamin deficiency which will be seen as burning feet syndrome, and there are some endocrine disorders which have this particular symptoms of burning feet, where there will be in hypothyroidism and diabetes mellitus, people will see similar findings of the pain or numbness in the toes. Moving on to the next vitamin, that is vitamin B6 or pyridoxine. Pyridoxine is richly found in egg yolk, fish, milk, wheat, corn or cabbage. The requirement is 2 milligram per day, and the coenzyme form of this particular vitamin is PLP. That means vitamin B6 is required for certain biochemical reaction in the form of PLP. Okay. So, the biochemical reactions or the functions where PLP is required are listed here. So, they are required for the metabolism of amino acids and proteins, mainly the transamination reaction, the transfer of amino groups between the amino acids and the keto acids, the decarboxylation of amino acids, removing the carbon dioxide and forming the amines, synthesis of nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, the active form of vitamin B3, we have studied this. So, this if you can recall, PLP is required for the conversion of the tryptophan into NAD. So, it is a part of the PLP function as well. Next is glycogen phosphorylase. This is the enzyme which converts glycogen into the converting into the removal of the terminal glucose residues from the glycogen. So, glycogen phosphorylase also requires PLP. Heme synthesis, the first reaction of the heme synthesis is converting the glycine into ALA, that is delta ALA synthase requires PLP as coenzyme, and amino acid absorption in the intestine also requires PLP. So, we will list few of these reactions. One among this, as I told, is the transamination reaction. So, the enzymes are aminotransferases. One such is alanine aminotransferase ALT, which converts alanine into pyruvate, transferring the amino group from alanine to alpha ketoglutarate to form glutamic acid. So, this is a transamination reaction catalyzed specifically by alanine transaminase. The next enzyme, the next reaction is a decarboxylation reaction, where the carbon dioxide from a particular amino acid is removed and the product, amine product is formed. Glutamate is converted into gamma aminobutyric acid, which is a neurotransmitter. This is one example. There are many other examples for decarboxylation. For example, from dopamine, the dopa decarboxylase converts dopa into dopamine. So, again dopamine is a neurotransmitter. There are many such decarboxylation reactions where the carbon dioxide is removed and the amine form of the amino acid is formed, and these all decarboxylation reactions require PLP as coenzyme. Next, as I mentioned, the first reaction of heme synthesis, where glycine combines with the succinyl CoA by the enzyme ALA synthase, requires PLP and it forms delta ALA, that is delta aminolevulinic acid, which ultimately forms heme. and metabolism of homocysteine requires B6, that is PLP. So, homocysteine is converted into cysteine by the cystathionein beta synthase, again this requires PLP. So, increased homocysteine levels in the blood is correlated with the myocardial infarction. It serves as an independent marker for the cardiovascular disease or myocardial infarction. So, pyridoxine deficiency or the PLP deficiency results in neurological manifestations, as you have studied in the previous slide. The production of neurotransmitters requires PLP. One is the GABA, another one, as I mentioned, dopamine production, serotonin production. All these neurotransmitters are produced by decarboxylases or decarboxylation reactions. So, deficiency of pyridoxine or PLP results in neurological manifestations. The second symptoms or the findings of pyridoxine deficiency are dermatological manifestations, because PLP is required for the conversion of tryptophan into NAD, and NAD deficiency, that is niacin deficiency, resulting in the pellagra like symptoms, again dermatological manifestations. The third findings in pyridoxine deficiency or PLP deficiency are hematological manifestations, and hematological manifestations are because of the involvement of PLP in the production of heme. So, neurological manifestations, as I said, the neurotransmitter production is affected because of the deficiency of PLP. So, resulting in convulsions and peripheral neuropathy, demyelination of the neurons are observed. Dermatological manifestations are due to decreased niacin production from the tryptophan due to PLP deficiency. So, you see pellagra like symptoms. And hematological manifestations are mainly because of decreased heme synthesis, and there will be hypochromic microcytic anemia. Due to decreased heme synthesis, the RBCs are less sustained and smaller in size. The meaning of hypochromic, less sustained, microcytic, smaller sized RBCs, referring to hypochromic microcytic anemia. If you see the peripheral smear, these are the normal peripheral smear in which RBCs are observed, and this is a picture seen in a patient who is suffering from microcytic hypochromic anemia, where RBCs are less sustained and they are smaller in size. So, compare these two images, you can find out the difference. These are normally stained RBCs and these are less sustained, smaller sized RBCs. The condition is referring to microcytic hypochromic anemia. And the pyridoxine deficiency can occur in patient with again tuberculosis treated with isoniazid. As I mentioned, isoniazid causes the deficiency of PLP required for the production of niacin. So, it forms an inactive derivative with the PLP and makes it unavailable for the production of nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide or NAD+, and that is excreted in the urine. So, supplementation with B6 is an additional option to treat people who are taking isoniazid treatment for TB. Women taking oral contraceptives also can exhibit the symptoms of PLP or pellagra like symptoms, because or the deficiency of pyridoxine is observed in people or women taking oral contraceptives, because estrogens enhance the utilization of PLP and increases its requirement. There is no pellagra like symptoms in women taking oral contraceptives, whereas it increases the requirement of PLP for these people. And alcoholics also will exhibit the deficiency of PLP. Thank you. That is all from my side.